Hi everyone, it's Kait here with SkeenaWild with a fisheries update for August 19th, 2026. In this video, we'll take a look at salmon and steelhead returns to the Skeena, Nass, and other regions in the North Coast, as well as environmental conditions and how they may be influencing this year's returns. So starting with Skeena sockeye, we're right at the tail end of the return through the Tyee test fishery now. The early return of 5-year-old sockeye appeared strong, but the run dropped off over what is usually the peak of the return from mid to late July, so the prediction for the total return size declined throughout the season. As of now, just over 1.6 million sockeye are estimated to have passed the Tyee, compared to an average of about 2 million for this state. And with about 95% of the run estimated to have passed into the river at this time, the current forecast for the total run size is just under 2.1 million sockeye for this year, which is slightly below average. And keep in mind that the total run size estimate of about 2.1 million includes the roughly 350,000 sockeye that were caught in the marine approach waters. However, the counts at the Babine fence are painting a different picture. Based on an escapement past the Tyee of about 2.1 million, DFO estimates that about 1.35 million sockeye should return to the Babine fence, but as of August 17th, only just over 300,000 large sockeye have been counted through the fence, compared to an expected 1 million. While it's still possible, and we hope that more sockeye will show up at the fence over the next couple weeks, it's looking like the Tyee test fishery may have overestimated sockeye abundance, which could be related to catchability as the early fish were very large this year. If we assume average run timing through the Babine fence, it would mean about 50% of the sockeye have passed to this date, and would put the sockeye return to the Babine at only about 600,000 this year. For sockeye fisheries, the marine commercial fishery opened from July 10th to August 2nd this year. DFO had initially given August 8th as a final possible date for commercial openings for 2026, but by August 2nd it was clear that the return would be smaller than anticipated earlier in the season, and the commercial catch was likely already approaching at or possibly past its limit. And if returns to the Babine fence remain low, the heavy fishing pressure at the marine approach would be even more concerning for this year. Closing the fishery in early August also reduces bycatch of Skeena chum, coho, and steelhead in the fishery, and helps to protect and rebuild later-timed wild sockeye populations like Babine River sockeye. There were also in-river economic fisheries for sockeye in the lower Skeena River until August 10th, and in the mid-Skeena and at Whitsett Canyon for pink salmon over the past few weeks. Recreational fishing for sockeye in the Skeena did open on July 10th this year and in the Babine River on August 1st. However, with the lack of sockeye returning to the Babine fence, DFO issued changes effective August 17th, that the Babine River is now closed for sockeye fishing, and the daily limit in the Skeena mainstem decreased to 2 sockeye per day. Taking a quick look at other species in the Skeena, Chinook and coho returns are below average this year, while chum, pink, and steelhead returns are above average. But let's dive into each a bit further, starting with Chinook. The Skeena Chinook return remained well below average this year, as expected, and fairly similar to the past several years. The preseason forecast anticipated a return of about 33,000 Chinook. And while the Tyee index is fairly consistent with that, there is no in-season return estimate publicly available for Chinook just yet, so we won't have an escapement estimate until after the season. Skeena coho returns are below average this year, which was forecasted, despite a strong parent year return in 2023. The Skeena chum return, on the other hand, is looking quite strong, well above average, which has not been seen in recent years. Skeena chum have been at very low abundance for several decades, so this stronger return is rather unexpected and is great to see. In fact, this is the 4th highest year on record for chum based on the Tyee index since 1956. However, the Tyee index is not translated into an abundance estimate for chum, and other factors such as catchability are not accounted for, so it's difficult to know what it actually means for chum returns, but it's still reason to celebrate. It's very possible that the reduced fishing pressure in southeast Alaska's outer district of 104 along the migration corridor that we saw this year benefited chum returning to the Skeena and other North Coast areas this year. Early indications on the North Coast and fishing in the marine approach waters to the Skeena were looking quite concerning for pink salmon. However, pink returns into the river have since materialized, and the return is slightly above average for a non-dominant year. In another good news story for this year, the Skeena summer run steelhead return is quite strong, with over 40,000 steelhead estimated past the Tyee to date. This is especially welcome as 6 of the past 7 years have seen very low returns, with some of the lowest on record. While the escapement estimate based on the Tyee index is a rough estimate that does not factor in catchability or other variables, the province of BC is confident that the steelhead return is above the threshold identified for conservation concern for this year. Taking a look at water levels and water temperatures in the Skeena, a fairly cool spring kept the snow on the mountains until mid to late June, and water levels on the Skeena remained slightly above average throughout July until very recently. However, at the Babine Fence, where on average about 90% of Skeena sockeye are returning, water levels were below average throughout the season, with temperatures hovering around 18 degrees since the start of August. And there are other systems in the watershed experiencing low flows and warm stream temperatures as well, including parts of the Bulkley River. When water temperatures consistently exceed 18 degrees, it begins to negatively affect salmon migration and survival, with temperatures above 20 degrees associated with high pre-spawn mortality. Moving over to the Nass sockeye return is below average this year, with an in-season return to Canada estimate of about 355,000, which has been dropping throughout the season. It's less than the preseason forecast of 435,000 and below the long-term average of about 600,000. Nass Chinook also remain well below their long-term average, with a total return estimate of about 18,000 for this year and just under 10,000 past the fish wheels. The Nass pink salmon return is below average this year, with a little over 50,000 past the fish wheels to date, and a total return estimate of about 280,000. Nass coho are also below average this year, with about 30,000 past the fish wheels to date, and a return estimate of about 100,000, compared to a long-term average of about 180,000. Nass chum returns are looking slightly lower than anticipated, but still with a forecast of about 68,000 for this year, which is just above the roughly 30-year average of about 60,000. And Nass steelhead are right around or just slightly below average this year, with about 5,000 past the fish wheels to date and a run size estimate of 13,000. There were very limited sockeye and pink directed commercial fishery openings in Area 3, the marine approach to the Nass River, in July, due to the low abundances. But there were also in-river fisheries for sockeye, including Nisga'a First Nations selective dip net fishery on the Nisga'a River. In the Nass watershed, water levels are slightly below average and water temperatures slightly above average for this time of year, with water temperatures at the Nisga'a Fishway around 19 degrees right now. So far this season, conditions have been more favorable when compared to the past few years. But it's important to remember that those years were quite challenging, with lots of pre-spawn mortality witnessed. And regions of the Skeena and Nass are currently experiencing mild drought. In other areas of the North Coast, including both Haida Gwaii and the Douglas Channel and Kitimat areas, pink salmon abundance has been very low or possibly late so far. However, charter patrol contracts, which go to the individuals who have assessed these systems for years, were cut back significantly this year by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, leaving major gaps in salmon monitoring for this season. The west coast of Haida Gwaii won't be monitored this year, and coverage for Area 6, which is the Douglas Channel and Kitimat area, has been greatly reduced. This comes at a time when salmon monitoring has already declined to about half of what it was in the 1980s. We're trying to fight these monitoring cutbacks, as well as eliminations of environmental safeguards that keep our salmon safe, but we could use your help. We have a letter on the SkeenaWild webpage that you can edit and send to the Prime Minister and the Fisheries Minister to let them know you don't support these cutbacks and want to see reinvestment in Pacific salmon. On our website, you can also find links to more detailed information used in this video under our Fisheries Resources page. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to us at info@SkeenaWild.org.